Every time you pay your utility bill, do you ever wonder why the costs seem to be creeping up? Are you curious about the reasons behind the rising prices? Today, we'll be delving into the topic of understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities. Get ready to learn how you can take control of your utility costs and make your wallet happy. Keep watching. A brand new episode of You and Your Money starts now.
You and Your Money is brought to you by Bahamas Power and Light and the Water and Sewerage Corporation.
Welcome to You and Your Money, everyone. Joining us today to talk about understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities, and more specifically water and sewage, is Mr. Cyprian Gibson. Mr. Gibson is the Acting Deputy General Manager of the Water and Sewerage Corporation, entrusted with managing, maintaining, distributing, and developing the water resources of the Bahamas. Mr. Gibson, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
There are many factors that impact the cost of water and sewage. Talk to us about the changes in demand and supply.
Providing water is a function of the usage. And of course, the most important user are the homeowners, the businesses, and even the industrial users. What has happened over time, especially coming out of COVID, is that people are now going back to work. And you have different form of usages of the water versus being at home or on the job. Also, what you're finding now with increased usage of Airbnbs in the Bahamas, that type of usage, which is out of the tourists, has changed the water demand, the water required, and put added pressure on the distribution and production systems.
So is there any effect as it relates to the supply due to drought, infrastructure failures, or regulatory changes?
Well, over the years, for example, climate change has put added stress on our well fields, and we have had to convert to reverse osmosis. So with the effect of increasing heat levels, increasing rising of water lenses, increasing inundation of our water lenses, we have had to revert to reverse osmosis, which is a more energy-intensive use of the production of water.
Now, the solutions to balance the supply and demand, they include investing in new infrastructure, conservation programs, and sustainable water management. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, water supplies are very capital intensive. It means that we have to invest, even if it's a well fields, we have to put in pumps, we have to put in the pumping systems, we have to put in the underground pipes to get to your homes. And unlike those like cable or BTC, they have the opportunity to go overhead. All of our infrastructure is underground, and so therefore it has a high implication on the cost of the water supply.
And I think it's good that you would have talked about how your infrastructure is, of course, primarily underground, and it's not necessarily, you don't have very many options. So how does the government regulations and policies impact the cost of water and sewage bills?
Well, government regulations are important. For us as a water utility, we have to operate at international best practices. So when it comes to testing the quality of water, when it comes to the type of persons that we hire, when it comes to equipment, the pipe specifications, all of those have to be at international best practices, especially being a government-owned agency. Regulations are good in that it helps to provide an even tariff across the board. For example, we haven't had tariff increases from 1999.
Wow.
Could you imagine from 1999, no increases in tariffs for your business or your products? And so regulations are important because it balances out, it ensures that the utility is operating efficiently, because regulators look at all of that. They look at your books, they look at your staffing, they make sure that you're efficient, you're giving a good quality of water before you can get an increase in rates. And it also balances all of the users so that the government agency has to operate just at the even par as private utilities and even private persons with private wells. Regulations assist in ensuring there's an even standard across the board. As simple as ensuring that your water quality that you give to yourself from your private well, it's important that we give guidelines to assist you in that regard. As it relates to other utilities, for example, it's not only water and sewage that provides water. There are other utilities on different islands that provide it, even in gated communities. And it's important with such a valuable resource that we operate at the highest and best practice.
So, Mr. Gibson, tell us, what role do technology and innovation play in the cost of water and sewage bills?
Well, technology is important. The more we can implement it, the better. For example, we monitor all of our systems. We operate some 75 water supply systems throughout the Bahamas on 25 islands and keys. And obviously, we cannot be everywhere at all the time, but consumers expect the water to be on 24/7. And so increasingly, we have used sensors across our systems, regulate the pressures during the day, during the nights. People require a different set of pressures. And all of those by technology. We use the telephone carriers. We use something called 𝗖𝗓𝗥𝗘𝗧, where information is downloaded 24/7. We're now even moving to smart meters, where consumers can get their data on time as they use water so that they can better regulate their water usage.
And so you talked about the sensors. What are some of those things that the consumers can actually utilize themselves in terms of being able to help them monitor from their own personal home base?
Well, the first important thing to monitor is your quarterly bills, and ensure that you get used to what your regular usage is, pay the bills on time, of course, and you can use that. Once you see there's a bump in it, an increase, normally your usage, it's regular. We bathe on a regular basis. We use certain things on a regular basis, cooking and the like. So it doesn't change that much. So when you see a bump or a change, it indicates it's probably a leak. For example, you can monitor it by your own meter. Times when you're not using water, you could watch it for 2 hours to see if your meter reading changes. And even the way your patterns of behavior, when you wash the car, use a bucket, brush your teeth, cut off the water, be conscious. Low flow shower heads that save you water and energy. Those type of usages, and just be intentional.
You know, you just said something, you said low flow water head. I'm thinking about the whole shower, you want to have the whole rainfall.
Well, there are lots of showers heads that can give you the same experience. Of course, that's with the implementation of technology. For example, the way the orifices on the shower heads are made, it gives you the same experience, but requires lower pressure and lower flow. But of course, for us at the utility scale, we try to implement greener technologies, increase usage of most efficient usage of our water supply, implementing solar where we can. We have that implemented in 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗧𝗪 and slowly in New Providence at the utility scale level.
And that there speaks to you having to invest in the infrastructure?
Yes, it's a constant. Water supplies are totally intensive, from production side to the supply side to pipelines to connections underground to the customer. So continued investment in those. As we also do increased investments in sensors and monitoring systems, automatic control valves, especially to monitor the various usage. During the day, it's a higher demand. At night, it's lower. We make those adjustments overnight, and it's a constant process.
Is there anything in place in terms of having to implement some equitable financing or rate structures that could assure affordability for all consumers?
Well, we haven't had a rate increase since 1999. And of course, what would have put in place at that time for particular type of consumer would be different from that of today. For example, we have high-end users that rates would need to be adjusted since 1999. We have houses that were once residences. They are converted to Airbnbs, and they're using a higher percentage of usage. And we want to ensure that it's fair and equitable across the board.
Mr. Gibson, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And all those in Bahamas land, we welcome you to join our supply as we operate at World Health Organization standard, especially those of you with private wells.
All right, so coming up next, we have the Director of Customer Service and Manager of Distribution Planning for the Bahamas Power and Light, who's going to be joining us to talk about understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities and, more specifically, the impact and cost of stealing electricity. This is You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
Since 1967, Freeport Oil Company Limited has been dedicated to fueling growth and prosperity in the Bahamas. we have been a constant pillar within the country, striving to invest and support our community through the best of times and the worst of times. For us, 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗘𝗧 represents 21 years of strength and consistency, consistent leadership, consistent growth, consistent customer service. Through it all, we are resilient. 𝗲𝗏𝗡𝗘𝗧, fueling growth for people.
You watch them grow and make plans for them even before they're old enough to talk. You spend a lifetime of sacrifice to pave the way for their success and create a tomorrow you too can be proud of. Can you tell who is the investor? At 𝗪𝗏𝗧, we believe everyone who has ever put a penny aside for a future dream is an investor. If you're new to investing, 𝗪𝗏𝗧's financial experts stand ready to design plans based on your goals. Let's sit down and explore the options one-on-one and see how, together, we can make your dreams come true. Whether considering traditional investments like a new home, car, your own business, security in retirement, or your child's college fund, we take the confusion out of the process and make an investor out of you. Call 396-3225 for an appointment. 𝗪𝗏𝗧, your bridge to the future.
Wake up, wake up, wake up dead early with Bahamas at Sunrise on RTV, channel 212. We're live at 6:30 a.m. on Mondays and Fridays with rebroadcast at 8 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and also at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. Man, Bahamas at Sunrise brings you everything. We got weather, fashion, food, politics, current events, music, and more with your hosts, Mark Daniels and Gabrielle Gardner. Tune in to Bahamas at Sunrise dead early, the best in Bahamian morning television.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Shell Unleaded improves your fuel economy, giving increased miles per gallon, allowing you to do more of what you really want. Special additives used in Shell Unleaded improve your engine's efficiency. So go further with Shell Unleaded. Venture out to beaches, Junkanoo, and festivals and bring home memories that will last a lifetime. Shell, fueling journeys that matter.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. Today we're talking about understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities. In this segment, we're going to talk about the factors that impact the cost of electricity. With us today is Mrs. Nadeen Eugene, Director of Customer Service from the Bahamas Power and Light, who is building for better. Mrs. Eugene, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, early in the show, we spoke with Mr. Gibson from Water and Sewerage about the factors that impact the cost of water and sewerage. In this segment, we'll now focus more specifically on a challenge that BPL currently has. For quite some time, this has been an age-old problem for BPL with people stealing electricity. Tell us, why is the theft of electricity a serious challenge for BPL?
Theft of electricity has really increased over the last 2 years, and we have seen so many cases of it. And the main reasons of theft of electricity is because of our economic conditions, where you have persons are still unemployed, not even being able to meet, paying their bills, as well as the rising fuel cost. Fuel is a pass-on cost to customer, and if you are aware that theft is taking place and is not being reported, then customers that are paying their bill will bear a higher cost of electricity. In addition, it's also a safety hazard. It can result in a fire taking place.
How does BPL know when a customer is stealing electricity?
From a system standpoint, we can identify if theft is going on. When we look at a customer account, there are instances where your consumption decreases or your bill amount declines. For instance, if 1 month you're $300 and then your bill drops to $50, there are cases where there are no usage or the meter's not advancing. We're able to see that, as well as we're seeing that on a monthly basis, your bill is being consistently estimated. This would prompt us to go and do an investigation on your account. In other instances, we can tell based on just doing our regular checks and balances. A meter inspector goes out or a disconnector goes out to do a disconnection, and they find or discover a irregularity, happening, and that is, considered theft. As well as, getting numerous calls via emergency where persons are calling about, lines sparking or, the fire going on in the meter box. All of these are evidence of some type of theft taking place.
Now, when we talk about the theft that's actually happening, where should someone report a suspected case of electricity theft?
We have a call center that you can call there, and you are allowed to be anonymous, as long as you give the relevant information, such as address or location information. Once you give the agent the information, it's passed on to the relevant department, which is our Revenue Protection Department.
We understand that this continues to be tough economic times for our customers, and it doesn't help that we're entering into peak summer period with consumption going up along with increases in BPL's Glide Path Fuel Recovery Program. What should customers be doing to ensure that they can minimize the increase in their monthly electricity bills?
To minimize the increase in your electricity bills, I would say that, to start practicing energy conservation methods. With the kids being at home, ensuring that, they're not leaving charges in, making the investment in LED lighting, things of that nature to, really to help you to control the cost, as well as monitor your usage, using your electricity, using the central air units, things like that.
What should customers do if they're having challenges in paying their monthly electricity bills?
If you are experiencing some difficulty in paying your bill, I would say that you visit the corporation where you can speak to any of our customer service rep. And we have various payment plans that can be extended to you, whether it be a 6-month plan, 12-month plan, but the key is you have to come in for us to take a look at your case and then to offer you a payment plan.
While there are payment plan options that are available, I want us to talk a little bit more about what is it exactly that BPL is doing to actually control costs.
To control the energy costs, BPL is right now looking at enhancing our generation mix, where we're looking at ensuring that we're using the most efficient engine and we're also using the most efficient fuel. This will drive down the cost of fuel, and then it will in turn, be a lesser charge passed on to our customers.
All right. Well, Mrs. Eugene, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next will be the Manager Distribution Planning for Bahamas Power and Light, who will be joining us to talk about understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities and more specifically the impact and cost of accessing electricity with a new construction. You're watching You and Your Money. We'll be right back.
Shell Unleaded improves your fuel economy, giving increased miles per gallon, allowing you to do more of what you really want. Special additives used in Shell Unleaded improve your engine's efficiency. So go further with Shell Unleaded. Venture out to beaches, Junkanoo, and festivals and bring home memories that will last a lifetime. Shell, fueling journeys that matter.
Samantha's always on point. She doesn't miss a thing. When she signs up for any insurance policy, she reads all the fine print. She knows what's covered, what's not covered, and she's aware of her deductibles. When it comes to insurance, it pays to know your policy. Review every insurance policy so you know what you're covered for. This message was brought to you by the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, Dad, early with Bahamas at Sunrise on RTV, channel 212. We're live at 6:30 a.m. on Mondays and Fridays with rebroadcast at 8 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and also at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Man, Bahamas at Sunrise brings you everything. We got weather, fashion, food, politics, current events, music, and more with your hosts, Mark Daniels and Gabrielle Gardner. Tune in to Bahamas at Sunrise, dead early, the best in Bahamian morning television.
You watch them grow and make plans for them even before they're old enough to talk. You spend a lifetime of sacrifice to pave the way for their success and create a tomorrow you too can be proud of. Can you tell who is the investor? At 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗛𝗏, we believe everyone who has ever put a penny aside for a future dream is an investor. If you're new to investing, 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗛𝗏's financial experts stand ready to design plans based on your goals. Let's sit down and explore the options one-on-one and see how, together, we can make your dreams come true. Whether considering traditional investments like a new home, car, your own business, security in retirement, or your child's college fund, we take the confusion out of the process and make an investor out of you. Call 396-3225 for an appointment. 𝗪𝗏𝗧𝗛𝗏, your bridge to the future.
Since 1967, Freeport Oil Company Limited has been dedicated to fueling growth and prosperity in the Bahamas. We have been a constant pillar within the country, striving to invest and support our community through the best of times and the worst of times. For us, 𝗖𝗛𝗡𝗘𝗧 represents 21 years of strength and consistency, consistent leadership, consistent growth, consistent customer service. Through it all, we are resilient. 𝗖𝗛𝗡𝗘, fueling growth for people.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. We're continuing our discussion on understanding the factors that impact the cost of utilities. Joining us now is Mr. Robert Turnquest, Manager, Distribution Planning from the Bahamas Power and Light. In this segment, we're going to talk about the impact and cost of accessing electricity with a new construction. Now, in the previous segment, we spoke with Mrs. Eugene about the impact of people stealing electricity. On another note, though, BPL is looking at another aspect of its operations when it comes to the managing of its relationships with its customers. The company is finding that many homeowners are finding themselves in a tough position when it comes to applying for electricity. After construction is complete, homeowners apply to BPL and are sometimes faced with significant challenges in accessing electricity. Mr. Turnquest, what are some of the challenges that new homeowners are facing when it comes to accessing electricity?
Well, primarily when you purchase a property in a development, it's important to realize that the developer who sold you the property is fully responsible for getting BPL infrastructure to that property. In an instance where you yourself are purchasing the property independent of a developer, or say you're going through a real estate agent, you would want to be as close as possible to BPL infrastructure, because the cost that you would, subsequent cost to get electricity to your home or business would be fully your responsibility.
What about the time factor?
The time factor is, can be extended based on having BPL now having to mobilize resources and materials to build out the area.
Where do you see these challenges actually happening the most?
Family Islands, some parts of New Providence. Well, in the instance of the Family Islands, we would require the property owner to prove that they have legal title to the property. Mm-hmm. Also, we would have them sign an indemnity agreement absolving BPL of any responsibility if they were to build and there was some legal matter afterwards. Here in New Providence, we see instances where a developer may have passed away and the property owner has already begun construction. That property owner is now responsible to get supplies to their home. which could be very costly depending how far away you are from the existing infrastructure.
How can a customer avoid this pitfall?
To avoid the pitfalls of delays, the customer should be engaged with the electrician they have hired. You should only purchase property when you know it's a reliable developer or source that you're purchasing the property from, because, like I said, we need legal title to be established. We would ask you for conveyance documents, boundary markers, a lot of information that has to be in place before BPL can supply you with electricity.
With BPL having to do the supply or provide supply to the electricity, what about the timing around when should persons actually apply to get these services?
That's a very good question. You should not wait until you've completed your home.
Okay.
You should apply for electricity through your electrician at the point when your foundation is complete and you have established where your service location is to go.
Okay.
It's important also to put on that document your at least 2 telephone contacts and nowadays an email contact, because from the planning perspective, we have to cost the job and notify you, and the best way to notify you is through email.
All right. Now, we talked about having to go ahead and put in, or when to put in the application, but talk to us a little bit about overhead versus underground utility services.
Great. Now, depending on which area you purchase a property in, it's exclusively overhead or exclusively underground. You may come across areas where there's a mix, but it's important to note when applying through your electrician, the cost for an underground service is 3 times the cost of an overhead service. So if you want to save money, you would want to go with an overhead service.
Okay. Well, Mr. Turnquest, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today's show. We want to give a special thanks to Water and Sewerage and BPL for sponsoring today's show. To get in touch with them both, you can visit their websites at WSC.com and BPLCO.com. Don't forget to follow You and Your Money on Facebook and tune in next week for a brand new episode. I'm Ria Christina. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
You and Your Money was brought to you by Bahamas Power and Light and the Water and Sewage Corporation.